When we left off, we had just reviewed the different behavioral styles that exist in the world, and we had decided that there were 4 of them. The first one we said was a D for dominance. The second one we said was I for influence. The third one we said was S for steadiness or stability. And the last one we said was C for compliance. Now, those are the 4 behavioral styles, and they're major ones. Usually, a person will have 2 behavioral styles that are dominant and 2 that are less dominant. I, for example, have a very high D score out of a 1 to 100. I have a very high D score. In particular, I score about 100 on the disc, on the D for dominance. I also score 100 for the I for influence, and that means I'm a dominant person. I like to sort of be in charge of the room and tell folks the way it's going to go. And on the influence side, I also like to feel like I have a lot of influence over the group. So I want people to feel it the way I feel it, see it the way I see it, so that they understand why I want them to do it the way I want them to do it. And so a D and an I is not an entirely uncommon. There aren't a whole lot of uncommon styles. My own personal score on the S, or stability or steadiness, is about a 23 out of 100, so 23%, which means I don't particularly worry about steadiness or things being consistent. If you were to, for example, my joke about it is if you were to rearrange the furniture in my house every day when I went out, and then I came home and it was different every day, I'd be cool with that. I'd probably find some fun in it, and I would like that probably plenty. I'd certainly be just fine with it. It wouldn't affect me. On the compliance side of thing, how important are the rules to a person? That's what the compliance part means. Out of 100, I score a 3 out of 100 on compliance, which means I'm not necessarily the kind of person who would ignore a do not enter sign. I might actually go so far as to look for the do not enter sign. So if we know these things about somebody, say me, for example, since I know me pretty well, we know that I'm going to be a highly dominant person. I'm going to try to be in charge of the room when I get there. I'm going to try to make people see it and feel it the way I feel it. If the situation or the business or life or things change from day to day, I'm totally capable of rolling with that, and it's not going to throw me off kilter. And if you present me with a set of rules, I will follow those rules as long as they make sense to me, which means I'm not a particularly good rule follower. I'm not a criminal necessarily, but I definitely pick and choose the ones that I think make sense. My joke about that is I strictly obey the laws of physics. And then all the rest of it, I gotta see how it goes. So I've been pretty successful because, not necessarily because of my not necessarily because of my behavioral style, because we're sort of born with that. I think one of the reasons that I've been pretty successful in life and relationships and other areas is that I understand these things about myself, and so I know what roles I'm liable to be good at. And so what we want to do is we want to talk about the roles that happen when we begin to review things like behavioral style, right? So in this conundrum, in this model, there are 8 behavioral styles that we have here, and we will put them in order. The first one is a conductor. The second one, we'll blow through these pretty fast. There's a conductor. There is a persuader. And that is what it sounds like. The next one is a promoter. The one after that is called a relator. And we have a supporter. coordinator, and I'm going to make sense of these in a minute. Analyzer. Woo! Analyzer. And the last one is an implementer. So now let's make some sense of this. What I want to do is I want to redraw my little circle here because it really helps me to make it make sense, right? And then I'm going to go back and put my D, my I, my S, and my C, because those are my behavioral types, and then we're going to map these things here. So if we want to, and this video, by the way, I'm shooting this in high def so that you can change it around, so that you can make it full screen and get the detail. What we're going to do is we're going to map these things around the wheel in clockwise order. And so right here at the top of the D, we're going to make this person a conductor, right? So a conductor here is right here, which means if you score sort of in this part of the wheel, you're going to be a conductor sort of a person. And then we're going to break this. We're going to keep breaking this thing up into 8 little pie slices. Forgive my monkey pie slicing, but that's the way it's going to go. And so this is a conductor. So if I score a very high D, I'm likely to be a conductor. I'm the guy who tells people what's going to happen. I'm the guy who tells people what to do. On this side here, on the I side, the pure I, this is going to be somebody who's called a promoter, right? Because remember, I'm influence oriented, and the promoter, so I'm going to promote an idea. I'm going to try to get you to see it the way I see it. In between the conductor and the promoter is going to be this thing called a persuader, right? Is a persuader. Let's move this over a smidgen so we can see it. In between the conductor and the promoter is a persuader. Moving around the wheel, we're kind of skipping spots here. After the persuader, on the steadiness side of things, people who really value steadiness and stability, that person is going to be what we call a supporter. Okay, so somebody who really values steadiness is going to be really good in a supporting role, is going to be good at helping make sure things stay the way that they should be. And so you'll find administrative assistants, you'll find human resources people, you find people who are responsible for sort of the continuity of systems. You'll find that sort of behavioral style almost tends to gravitate well to a supporter sort of a role. And then in between the supporter and the promoter is going to be a relator, right? A relator. So somebody who understands the necessity for support and the continuity of a system, but who is also kind of influence oriented. And that way, that makes them really good at bridging the gap. Again, a human resources kind of a function where I can listen to your issues and concerns, and I can help you reframe and understand those in the context of keeping a business running, keeping a system going the way it ought to be. I got a little bit sloppy here on my notes here. On up here in this one, the high C person is going to be an analyzer. And an analyzer is somebody who loves the data. They love to crunch the numbers. They love to look at the information. They love to understand what's going on. They are the kind of people who like to hear the whole story and start at the beginning and give them all the bits and pieces and facts and figures, and then they can reach their own conclusions. When you're talking to somebody who's a high C or a compliance-oriented person, give them the information. Don't start at the end and then backfill. Start at the beginning and let them draw their own conclusions. In between those two things, in between a pure supporter person who just wants to help you get it done no matter what it happens to be, and an analyzer who's very invested in the rules and understanding the information in the data. In between those two things is your coordinator, right, who wants to support you and getting it done, and also wants to make sure that we're following the rules and gathering the information and obeying the laws or the rules of a system. And in the top, in between this compliance and this dominance, is a really important one, which is the implementer. Right, the implementer. The implementer wants you to do what they want to do, and they really appreciate the rules. And so if you've got a well-defined system and you need to get stuff done, your implementer is a really good person to work with. And so those are the behavioral, those are the roles that different behavioral styles tend to fall into. And I think I'm going to also, after this, I'm going to start posting some articles on these things so that you can drill down a little bit more and really get a feel for what these different roles are and why they're based and how they're based on behavioral styles.